All right, the last steps I need to take are to create my collar stand, and then add buttons all over my blouse. So for my collars, I'll make my collar stand first, since that's what will sew into my neck. So the first thing I need to do is measure my neck. I have 8.161. I'm going to make a rectangle that is 8.161, and the height of my collar stand is going to be 1. Okay. I'm going to make this a symmetrical piece. I'm going to draw my curved edge. I'm going to use the pen tool. I'm going to turn snap to edge on, okay, so that I can snap anywhere along this edge. I'm going to go a little bit below halfway. I'm going to click and hold shift. This will just give me a handle that is in the vertical position. And then I'm going to go in a little bit here, kind of equidistance, and I'm going to click and hold just to give myself those handles there as well. Okay. If you want to adjust the line after, just click on it and use your handles. I would suggest for ease here that your internal lines only intersect one time and they don't go over, or it will impact how your swapping works. So I'm going to select this line. I'm going to say convert internal line to edge. Okay. And then I'm just going to make sure that it happened symmetrically and it did not remove my symmetry. There are some cases where it removes the symmetry and you have to just add it back in. Before I curve this, I'm going to grab this little line that was left with a corner point, and I'm going to clone edges by offset, and I'm going to do -0.5625. Okay, and I'm going to say extend to edges. So this is adding a line here that is my center front. So when I line up this collar stand here at my center, this line will now intersect with center front. It will act as my button placement and will help me to have a position where my collar will sew into. Okay, I'm going to click on the top of that point and say add point to edge. I'm going to turn internals off, and I'm going to turn this point into a corner point and a notch. So this is now my center front point that I will use for stitching my collar. I didn't give any specific measurements for the collar. I gave a collar edge, but we're just going to use it as a guideline. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add slash and spread. I'm going to start a little bit in from center back because I like my collar stands to be a little bit flat at center back and the curve to happen mostly around the side and the front. So I'm going to make my two guidelines, and I'm going to change my number of slash lines to about 10 just for the smooth shape. I'm going to lock the center of my piece, and I don't want to change my end spread because it matches my neck, but the start spread I'm going to do, you can start with a small amount if you want to, say -1/8 of an inch, very much too curved. Okay, so I'm going to go and say how about a 1/16 of an inch, still probably too curved for me. I'm going to half that and do a 30 seconds. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, if you like to use rules about how much you're lifting here like you would on paper, you can create some guidelines for yourself and use the fast measure tools to see how far up you've curved this line. So this is about 1 1/8. Seems okay to me. I'm going to implement this, and I can remove this internal line that didn't come with because I already got my corner point here. So I have my collar stand. Now I'm going to measure this top edge. This is 7 1/4, 7.286. I'm going to use that measurement to make my collar. So my collar width is going to be 7.286, and the height is going to be 1.75, which is the center back height I gave in the spec sheet. I am going to make this also a symmetrical piece. Okay, I'm going, before I slash and close this or spread it, I'm going to add a little bit of an angle here, which I can then adjust later once I've dressed it and decided what shape I like. But it'll just help give me a little bit of a collar point shape for now. I'm going to choose slide, and I'm just going to do a manual adjustment here and slide this point out just a tad. Okay. I am now going to go slash and spread just like I did the collar stand. I'm going to start a little bit in from center back, and I'm going to go not quite to center front. I'm going to change this to 10 slash lines, hold my center back, and I'm going to do a positive value this time, so the edge of my collar is now going to get longer. So I'll start again with a 1/16 of an inch. Might be a little too shaped for me. Let's try a 32nd again. Okay, looks maybe okay. I'm going to implement this. We can always adjust later. For both pieces, I'm going to use the reduce points option to try to get rid of some of these overlapping points. If some of them don't go away, you can also come back in here and delete. I usually start with deleting every other to not overly manipulate the shape. I'm going to remove these top two lines to make this completely straight, and then I'm going to select this top edge of my collar, and I'm going to open this up to maybe 2 1/4. I think I gave 2 1/2 as the collar point on your spec, but I think 2 1/4 might be enough. And then I'm going to use my handles to just give a slight shape. So this is where, now that my collar point is a little bit higher, my center back is correct, my neck is correct, I can play with this angle here if I want a less sharp shape. Okay. And I can start to sort of analyze what that collar edge length is. Okay, so I'm going to sew these on. I'm going to sew the collar stand from multi-stitch. I'll go from center front to center back to center front to center back. Done. And I'm going to sew the bottom of my collar to the top of my collar stand. I'm going to add in a fold line here on my collar. I'm going to turn this line into a fold line. I'm going to go to arrange. I'm going to put these pieces at my center back neck. I'm going to center them as best I can, stack them as they should be. Okay, make sure that fold is happening in the right direction, and I'm going to click dress. Okay, now I can't tell if the lengths are correct until I add my buttons, but at least they are stitched on there for now. Okay, for my buttons, I'm going to go to materials. I added a button in here. Oh, no, I didn't. All right, I'm going to go to new button. And I'm going to go to assign. So this is a smart button. It's going to add your button first, buttonhole second. Okay. So we said we wanted right, where is right over where is left. That means my buttons are going to go on the left side and my buttonholes are going to go on the right side. My top button placement is going to be at 5/8 of an inch. I can use that guideline right there. Okay, the blue guideline that tells me. Or I can also offset that top edge to give me the exact position that I want. But this works just fine. I'm going to click here. You'll notice when you do that, you get a symmetrical pink dot on the other placket. That is to be used as a guideline so that you can see where your matching buttonhole should go with your button. I'm then going to go to select mode, and I'm going to select both the button and the buttonhole, and I'm going to clone by offset. The distance between buttons I gave, I think, was 3 1/4. And on your inspo image, there were 7 buttons. We already have 1, so I'm going to make 6 new copies, and I'm going to select apply. Okay, so this creates equidistance buttons on my placket. You can click dress. It's probably going to not do a great job of overlapping your plackets. So what I highly suggest is to re-prepare and redress and your placket will lay a little bit flatter. I need to do the same thing on my collar stand, so I'm going to go to Assign again, make sure I'm on my button. I'm going to put my button here lined up as best I can with that notch that I created. And then I'm going to go to the other side and put my buttonhole on that pink dot. You can go to select mode and use your gizmo to turn your buttonhole. Okay. And then I'm going to do this on my cuff as well. So again, on my cuff, my placket should be on the top layer, so my buttonhole should go here, and my button should go on the bottom. So I'm going to go to Assign. I'm going to place my buttonhole. Remember, we said 3/8 from the edge. Okay, and I'm going to go right where that red line switches from side to side. That's how I know that I'm kind of centered on the cuff. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Make sure I'm about at 3/8 of an inch, right where the red line swap. Okay, and then I just need to do the other cuff. The buttons do not assign symmetrically like they do on the plackets. Okay. Now I'm using these guidelines. If you wanted a super exact position, you would create your own guidelines or your own drill hole at a specific location first. Okay. I'm going to re-prepare everything here. The only thing I think I forgot was to layer my collar. So my collar stand is at 2. I'm going to layer my collar at 3, and I'm going to make sure both of these are a 0.6 details grid. I'm going to redress, and I should have, in the end, a cuff that overlaps with the placket, cuff that overlaps, the pleat there, the collar, having some issues. If you see some things like this, my suggestion is to just get your pinch tool out. If your layers are done properly, the collar should lay over the collar stand. Sometimes it does some weird things and tries to dress underneath. And I would use your styling tools until everything is sort of laying naturally, and then you can use your eye and your judgment to decide if your collar edge is wide enough or not. For example, mine is looking a little bit tight. It's having a little bit of trouble covering the back neck, and it's just looks a bit small to me. So I may be slashing and opening it a little bit more, and then updating this collar point here, because once I slash it and open it, this collar point may be too pointed. So I can just play with these things. That is the beauty of 3D, is that I can adjust these things and dress them and see immediately the changes. The last thing I need you all to do is make any rulers that are missing that you need to be able to fill out your spec sheet. You will be filling out your spec sheet, adding your renders to the spec sheet as if this was a development spec that you were sending to a factory. And you will turn in your BW file and your Excel sheet to me to be graded. Thanks. Bye.